Hello guys and welcome back to a brand new video from me, Pickles Park Reviews. Today I'm reviewing episode 4 of the Daleks animated series that's part of Time Lord Victorious. Now, as mentioned before, this is episode 4, the penultimate episode of the series, and I'm not sure if this is just going to be one series or if it's going to be series 1 of many and they're going to make a series 2, or if this is just a self-contained one series event. And I think in terms of if it is a multiple series show or just a contained series thing will really dictate my thoughts on the end of this series, because if it is the end in next episode, then I think I'm gonna have some massive problems with it, basing it on what we get in this episode, because this episode is essentially an extension of what we got last week. These could essentially be part 1 and part 2, Planet of the Mechanoids, and this one, I can't really remember what this episode was called, because they both take place on Mechanus. The first one sees the Daleks go to Mechanus and try and ally with the Mechanoids to escape the entity, and then this one sees the entity come to Mechanus and then they've got to defend themselves from it. So it's essentially the second part of a two-parter. I know this whole series is continuous narrative anyway, but this is essentially the second part of a two-parter, and again there's not really much to say with this because of that. A lot of the stuff I would say in this review I mentioned in my review last week. I'm a big fan of the Mechanoids. I love how emotional they are and I love the delivery of the actors. Angel Mahindra is great as the Mechanoid Queen. Has got great vocal delivery in terms you almost feel like the Mechanoid Queen is almost taunting the Dalek Emperor at points. They just have such emotion in their voices, and I love how it uses that emotion to counteract the Daleks, who are very logical about things. There's one scene towards the end when you've got the scientist Mechanoid saying our team up was beautiful, and then the Strategist Dark says it was logical. There's quite nice contrast there. However, we got that also in episode 3. Once again, Mechanus looks great, even though the animation has come under a bit of fire. I think Mechanus is really well rendered, and I really like the design of it. It reminds me of Camino from Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, if you've seen that installment of the Star Wars franchise. The planet where Obi-Wan goes, where they're developing the Jango Fett clones. It's a very similar layout almost, and I think that's really cool. I've always loved the layout of that planet in Star Wars, and when you play it as a map in Star Wars Battlefront 2, it looks so awesome. And likewise, the Mechanus City has a similar feel. I love how you keep on going down, you keep on getting different hatches and different islands, I guess, lower and lower down. It's just not one flat surface. You've got lower and lower down. I think that's really cool. Mechanus is designed brilliantly. Once again, the Emperor Dalek is really cool. Nicholas Briggs does a really good booming voice, and I love just how confident the Emperor Dalek is. He seems to embody everything about the Daleks, even at the end when he's essentially hung out to dry by the Mechanoids and goes it alone as he thinks the final Dalek in existence. He doesn't go down without a fight, he's just trying to exterminate the entity. Admittedly, it doesn't go well, but I quite like the fact that it has that confidence there. The Strategist Dalek is once again brilliant. Him and the scientist Mechanoid make a really good pairing. As I said, the Mechanoids and the Daleks having the emotional contrasting to the logical works really well in of itself, but I think those two make a really good team, and I like the fact when the Strategist Dark says, I've noticed something, and the Mechanoid Dark says, I already noticed it. It's quite a funny scene. But no, they make a really good pairing, and once again the Strategist Dark, you just feel he's scheming all the time. And it was interesting to hear his thoughts on the Emperor and his thoughts on the Daleks. He is still my favourite character, and I think Nicholas Briggs does such good work in terms of vocal delivery. Some of the animation is great, not just the landscapes, but I'm a big fan of the attack on the Emperor Dalek by the entity. The Mechanoids fighting the entity, less so. That doesn't look all too good. But ultimately, this episode, it's only 12 minutes and not a lot happens in it. You have the entity attack Mechanus, take out a load of Mechanoids, and then the Strategist Dalek and the Scientist Mechanoid work out a way how to stop the entity. They do, and seemingly get rid of it, and then it's only the Strategist and Emperor Daleks left, the only two Daleks in existence, and then at the end the Mechanoids essentially say, you lured the entity here to force us into an alliance. We got rid of your problem for you. But now we're pretty mad, and you're not going to escape Mechanus that easy. Now you've essentially second-handed killed all of our mechanoids, which is quite interesting, setting up a nice conflict. We've seen the allies of the Daleks and the mechanoids. Now we're going to see a nice, good old-fashioned Dalek and mechanoid war. But it does bring up the problem I have, that there's only one episode left, and the fact that we've seen this entity chase the Daleks throughout this series, and now they've got rid of the entity, and now they're pushing a new conflict between the Daleks and the mechanoids. I'm really worried that the entity just isn't going to be brought up again, and that's really bad storytelling, because we know nothing about the entity, why it was to get rid of the Daleks, what its motivations are, what it even is, what dimension it comes from. And as I said, if we have another series of this that could delve into that, I'm not too worried. But seeing as it's possible that this is the only 5 episodes we're ever going to get from this show, the fact that we don't know anything about the entity, and I'm worried we may not learn anything, is really disappointing. Also, I wouldn't really want the final episode to be purely action like this one. I find that a bit boring, especially with this animation style. I like a bit of content in there. I like a lot of like character dynamics. That's just what I'm a big fan of. Also, I'd really like them to build upon what was set up in episode 2 with the entity offering the strategist Dalek the opportunity to become Emperor of the Daleks if he leads the Daleks into a new path. I mentioned in that review that I thought that was going to build on something, that the strategist Dalek was going to betray the Emperor Dalek and take up the entity's offer, but that's kind of been forgotten about, so I don't really know where this is all going. Ultimately, there's not much content-wise to speak about in this review, because it's essentially just the second part of last week's review. All the compliments of the Daleks and the mechanoids I said in my last review, so there's not really much for me to say here. Ultimately, obviously, I've spoken about the couple of bits, the scientist mechanoid and strategist Dalek pairing, the Emperor Dalek's confidence, the badassery of the mechanoid queen when she turns on the Emperor Dalek. That's quite nice, quite cold, quite calculating. But ultimately, what really made me concerned after watching this episode was just what's going to happen in episode 5. I really don't know. I hope it all gets wrapped up, but unless it's a double-length episode, it will mostly feature the conflict between the Daleks and the mechanoids, and I'm worried that the entity and everything set up surrounding that will be forgotten. Again, if we get a second series, I'm not too bothered, but it's likely that we won't, and therefore the fact we've been following this entity and had things set up about the strategist Dalek all throughout the series, if it just isn't done anything with, then that's going to be extremely disappointing, and it's going to feel like a massive waste of time. So hopefully they don't do that. Hopefully they stick the landing, and episode 5 is a very good finale. Yes, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, drop a sub, and hit that notification bell to stay notified for all my latest videos. Not such a long review of this episode, but as I've said many a time in this review, there's not much to say. It's more of an extension of last week's episode, so if you want to know more of my thoughts about the mechanoids and that general setup, then please watch my episode 3 review. I put it out a bit later than usual, so many of you may have not seen it, so if you're interested in that, then here's a plug, go check it out. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, drop a sub, and hit that notification bell to stay notified for all my latest videos. And what did you think of Daleks episode 4? And what are your hopes for episode 5? Do you think it will stick the landing or not? Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. I'd be really interested to hear it. But thank you guys for watching, and of course, a goodbye. I'm so happy.